The UK is allowing Israel to mark its own homework over war crime scrutiny, an MP says. We're going to read into this from Middle East Eye, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Middle East Eye with the headline that the UK is allowing Israel to mark its own homework over war crime scrutiny, the MP says. The Scottish National Party Foreign Affairs spokesperson raises concerns that the UK is relying on input from Israeli military lawyers in letters seen exclusively by MEE. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Why are we allowing Israel to mark its own homework? This is the same exact premise, guys, that we are using with our police force. Oh, we're just going to mark our own homework that, yes, we're doing a very good job, despite the fact that we're actually doing a very crap job. We're going to mark it for us. This is the exact same thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. And anything that really should come out of Israel, you should not take seriously anyway, because we know the situation that's happening in Gaza. We know it's absolutely horrifying, and I've said this countless times. We all want a ceasefire. We want the bloodshed to stop. We want the children to stop dying. We want Palestinians to stop dying. And yes, I've said this 1,000 times, and I will continue to say this. Yes, Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel lost lives from that October 7th attack, and it was horrendous, and it was horrific, and absolutely, it is understandably justifiably for acting upon revenge. But we have far past that point. Yeah, there is no justification for the losses of life for what Hamas did to Israel, but there is absolutely no justification for what Israel have been doing to people in Gaza, what's happening in the Gaza Strip since then. Over 32,000, at the time of this recording, have died. More than 10,000 children have died. And there are children and women who are not just dying from the bombs, who are not just dying from the war and the conflict taking place in the Gaza Strip. They are literally dying from famine, from malnutrition, from not being fed, from not having water, not having some of the most basic and essential needs that you and I have every single day in our lives. They are being denied that by Israel. Now, before somebody comes and says Israel are allowing humanitarian aid, they are not letting nowhere near enough aid into the Gaza Strip. Yeah, whether it is by the main roads, that access port through Egypt, or from Israel's side, or from the seaport from there. There have been times where they've had to resort to humanitarian aid jobs from some of the UNRWA and other organisations to get aid into them. But it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And it does come along. I'm not going to say that it's outright genocide, but it's certainly coming close to that, based on what I've read, what I've heard, and what I've seen online, and from what experts and those who have said about what's happening. It speaks volumes as well. And this needs to stop. So this is not just. So we're going a bit of a stretch here, because this story is not just about the UK's opinion, not a part on this, but this is also on Israel. And I think this is really important to stress, that Israel being allowed to mark its own homework is shameful on something like this. It's just abhorrent in every way, shape or form. It really, really is. And I've said this before, and I've said this again. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, has the power to do more to stop this. He really, really does. For anyone who says that America can't do anything, they're wrong. America can do something, but they are choosing not to. And this is not an affront to Jews in any way, shape or form, because I can speak hand on my heart that there are hundreds of thousands of Jews around the world that do not approve this the way that Israel are conducting this and the way that they are handling this, because this is not how I'm sure they would want to do this. Of course they are upset about what's happened. I have seen Palestinian protesters, on weekends, where there are literally Jewish communities a part of them, because that's how abhorrent they are with the handling of this. This is an extremely difficult and sensitive topic, but it is one that we need to tackle head on and say, no, Israel, no, Benjamin Netanyahu, you've gone far enough, and it's time to put the gun down and start talking about ceasefire and start negotiating, because too many people are dying here. And people will not forget this, no matter how much the West, no matter how much they try to shun and make journalists inside the Gaza Strip disappear, and they have made journalists suffer from doing their jobs inside that Gaza Strip. No matter how much they try to cover things up, they can't deny what we are seeing with our eyes, what we are seeing online, what we are seeing, the atrocities being commenced by the IDF. We're seeing it. America needs to do more, and Israel needs to put the gun down, and Hamas needs to pay for its crimes. But I can't see a way where Hamas gets destroyed in this situation either. So a prominent MP has raised concerns that the UK government is allowing Israel to mark their own homework when it comes to compliance with international humanitarian law in Gaza, a Middle East Eye expert can report. In a letter sent to the Foreign Office Minister Andrew Mitchell on Wednesday and seen exclusively by MEE, Brendan O'Hara MP questioned which organisations and charities have been providing evidence to the government regarding Israel's legal compliance. In particular, O'Hara, the Scottish National Party spokesperson on foreign affairs, said he was concerned that the UK takes confidence in Israel's compliance with the IFL, the International Humanitarian Law, based on the mere presence of lawyers embedded with the Israel Defence Forces. So you're going to completely ignore what everyone is saying online. You're going to completely ignore what the footage is out there. You're going to completely ignore all that and simply just nod their heads in agreement of what Israeli lawyers are saying. We're going to completely ignore what Palestinians are saying as well. Right, that's perfectly fair. While integral legal scrutiny within military operations is acknowledged as important, it is essential that compliance with international humanitarian law is scrutinised by an accepted and impartial international body such as the UN or the ICC, he wrote. Allowing any conflict to the party to mark their own homework with compromising impartiality and raising significant questions about the objectivity and credibility of assessments, especially when there is mounting evidence of violations. O'Hara's letter follows a 2-hour parliamentary debate in Gaza on Tuesday, where nearly a dozen MPs called on the government to say whether it has updated its assessment on Israel's compliance, given that a UN-backed report this week found Gaza to be in a state of imminent famine. Mitchell would not be drawn to share details, but said that the Foreign Office was going through the necessity legal processes, which are complex, and would update MPs as soon as it was in a position to do so. During the debate, Michel said the UK government's legal assessments were supported by a detailed evidence base, conflict analysis reporting from charities, non-government organisations, international bodies and partner countries, statements and reports by the Israeli government and their track record of compliance. Michel then added that the Israeli military and their own lawyers embedded in the units involved in targeting and military action in as much the same way as producers that the British military do. That is not something that we see in any other force in the region, and it should give some confidence that the Israelis are seeking to abide by international law, he said. In his letter, O'Hara asked Michel to identify which NGOs were providing information to the government, especially when there are many reports to have found that Israel has committed serious violations of international humanitarian law, including war crimes. This raises critical questions about the UK's reliance on assessments being made by lawyers within the IDF, given the inherent conflict of interest and potential bias, along with Israel's own poor record when it comes to investigating itself, he wrote. And this is the problem. This highlights everything here. Like, it is conflict of interest and potential bias. Like, how much more do we need to read on this, guys? That's pretty much the gist of the issue here. Middle East and I did ask the Foreign Office for comment, and they haven't responded at the time of this recording. So Yasmin Ahmed, the UK Director of Human Rights Watch, said the government could not stand behind the general's claim that Israel complies with international law when the evidence to the contrary is mounting by the day. And that's the problem. The evidence we've seen and we've talked about this, is huge. The Foreign Office assessment of Israeli compliance with international humanitarian law is critical for UK arms to the country. The government is obliged to suspend export licenses if it determines there is a clear risk that British weapons could be used in serious violations of international humanitarian law. And this makes us complicit in violation of international humanitarian laws because we're giving goddamn weapons to Israel, which we should be stopping. Yeah, let's stop Let's stop supporting Israel with these weapons. Why don't we give them to Ukraine, a country that actually needs weapons right now? We should not be supplying anything to Israel with what they're doing. Now, I've heard reports that they're stating that none of the weapons and arms that we are sending is actually being used in that within the Gaza Strip. But you don't know that. You don't know that. And they're still pushing people out what's going on in the occupied West Banks as well. That's still happening as well. By failing to suspend the licensing of military equipment to Israel, the UK government is at risk of failing to prevent genocide and being complicit in serious violations of international law, including war crimes and crimes against humanity, as well as breaking UK law, Ahmed said. And this is it. We, taxpayers, could end up paying these fines. We could get fined, and you, taxpayers, British taxpayers, will be paying out of our own pocket for these fines. Because of this. When we didn't want this. In addition to the unfolding famine in Gaza, concerns over Israel's compliance with international humanitarian law comes a week after two aid organisations said Israeli officials gave them 6 different explanations about why the residential compound housing their staff in Gaza was attacked in January. The compound housing British doctors worked for the UK-based Medical Aid for Palestinians and US-based International Rescue Committee had been marked by the Israelis a month earlier as protected humanitarian area. Michelle said on Tuesday that the attack was appalling and required full and transparent inquiry and examination to how those events took place. And just for people who don't know, Middle East and I delivers independent and unrivaled coverage and analysis of the Middle East, North Africa and beyond. To learn more about the Republic and Context Association fee, you can fill out the form that they have here, guys. I don't normally use them for main content here, but given the links that it has to the British government, it's really infuriating, to say the least, that we're simply just nodding our heads in agreement that Israel are literally marking their own homework and saying, yeah, this is perfectly all right. They're perfectly doing fine. Like it's plain black and white what we are seeing. It is black and white what we are seeing. There's no denying what we are seeing that's actually happening. And it's like the government are in complete denial of this. And Labour have been just as bad about this situation as well, because they are so scared. Labour are so scared, so terrified of upsetting Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu when they come into power. That's what they are. They're totally scared about this as well. And you have the Scottish National Party, the only ones with some common sense in all of this. And I actually think the third largest party here, the only one with some common sense in the House, telling everyone, hey, what's happening here is terrible. We need to do something about this. We need to call this crap out. And you have Conservatives and Labour tiptoeing over this damn issue, when they need to stop tiptoeing and listen to the bloody British public who say they want this ceasefire to stop. And they all keep saying about the wordings and phrasings and whatnot. Get around the goddamn table and come to a bloody agreement on how you want to do this. Yes, the UK, I know what people are going to say in the comments. Yes, the UK can only do so much. Yes, I know the United Kingdom cannot get a ceasefire, cannot make Israel cease a ceasefire. I know that. But the UK can make its position very clear about how they feel about what's happening in there. And the problem is that the British government is not making, and the Parliament is not clear enough about how it feels about the situation that's happening in Israel and Palestine. And we need to make our position clear, because they are not at the moment speaking on how the British public feel about the issue there. And that's one of the key fundamentals here. It says, yes, it's not going to make a difference there. I understand that. But it's about a moral point of view. And the morality is that the vast majority of the British public want a ceasefire. They want the bloodshed to stop. That's what we want. That's what we generally want. And the British government and the Parliament and the MPs who represent us should be reflective in that position of what the vast majority of the British public want. And the problem is we are not getting that. And it's incredibly frustrating, to say the least. But what do you guys think? What do you make of this story from Middle East and I? Israel being allowed to mark its own homework, saying that everything's all fine, it's all tick boxes and whatnot. What do you guys make of the situation so far? What do you make of the politicians and their parts on all of this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video. And if you want to financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.